Major claims have came out recently in Pooh Shiesty's court paperwork, revealing some very weird behavior, with Pooh Shiesty having 2 court cases of using a firearm towards 3 individuals. Rap OGs in the music industry have found it odd how the Memphis rapper was only sentenced to 8 years in prison, when the original charges he was facing was life in prison. Now, the paperwork in Shiesty's court case has finally been revealed. Here's what they said. Pooh Shiesty was arrested for using a firearm towards 2 people in an armed robbery. The original charges were federal charges of conspiracy to possess firearms in an armed robbery and using a firearm during a crime. Shiesty was looking at 25 years inside a federal prison until he created a plea deal with the feds. As mentioned by Whack 100 and DJ Academics, Shiesty used what's called a proffer. A proffer is when the criminal proves additional detailed information to the feds relating to the offense for which immunity, or in this case a lesser sentence, is then granted. Shiesty used this proffer to have his charges of life in prison dropped in exchange for an 8-year sentence, but he had to give out information to the feds and exactly what happened during the incident of his arrest, giving the information on the case and those that were involved in it. This means the man that Shiesty was with when he arrived in his McLaren sports car before the robbery occurred. As he was arrested as well with Shiesty, they both worked together and gave out exactly what happened the day it went down. Now, the details that he shared in the paperwork states that rapper Pooh Shiesty used Instagram DMs to set up a meet for a pair of Air Jordans and some narcotics from an individual. They agreed on a parking lot, and Shiesty arrives to the parking lot driving a bright green McLaren sports car. When Shiesty and his boy arrived, they hopped out of their cars and they met the 2 men. They were originally supposed to be buying the high-end sneakers as well as some narcotics, and at the time, Shiesty was wearing a mask over his face, which he agreed to law enforcement that it was so then he can cover his face just in case there was any witnesses or any nearby surveillance footage. Now, everything was going normal. Shiesty was talking to these 2 individuals about his music until out of nowhere, when the transaction was about to go down, Shiesty pulls out his firearm out of his back pocket and uses it towards the 2 individuals, hitting one in the hip and the other one in the backside. Shiesty purposely waited until he left the Air Jordans and narcotics on the trunk of his car. That way they couldn't pick it up and run with it when he pulls out his firearm. With the 2 individuals sprinting away, Shiesty then used his firearm, as I said, and then he grabbed the Jordans and narcotics and threw them into his McLaren. While trying to make a quick getaway, a Louis Vuitton bag fell out of his car. In this Louis Vuitton bag, there was $40,912 all in cash, which to me is much more than enough money to buy some shoes. Shiesty then starts driving away from the scene. He starts heading to the nearest airport, rents a private jet, and flies right out of there before law enforcement even had the chance of arresting him. Everything that Shiesty agreed and said in his proffer agreement matches up with the evidence as shared by law enforcement. Now, in this photo, you see Shiesty standing beside a bright green McLaren sports car, as he posted this selfie with the car the same day the robbery went down. The next piece of evidence was the Louis Vuitton bag. Holding $40,912 all in cash, Shiesty admitted that this was his bag of money, as this was being used against Shiesty, as once the feds found it, they went through all of the serial numbers on the bills that were found inside, and they were actually able to match it with one of Shiesty's Instagram photos of him doing the money stretch across his body thing. With what is almost the most impressive police work I've ever seen in a court case, also sort of makes Shiesty the unluckiest rapper I've ever seen. Now, usually when you do a crime in Florida that involves firearms, Florida's 10-20 life rule will usually be applied. It states that you'll be put into prison for 10 years if you pull out a firearm without a license in public, 20 years if you pull out a firearm and you use it without defending yourself, and then you'll be sentenced to life in prison if you pull out a firearm and you use it towards someone or multiple people and they're then affected by it, which in Shiesty's case, he used it against 2 people on surveillance footage and even admitted that it was him. He somehow only got 8 years in prison for this, which makes people believe that he is snitching on some things in his case. So sadly though, this isn't the only court case that Shiesty is currently facing. In the second court case, it's been said he may try making a proffer deal once again, as while at the King of Diamonds club, Memphis rapper rapper Pooh Shiesty was performing for a very loud crowd. During his performance, individuals that were sitting in the front row noticed that Shiesty had $40,000 of cash sitting in his skinny jeans pockets. Now, according to the official arrest warrant, Shiesty was performing at the club when the people in the front crowd knocked the stack of cash out of his back pocket as he got closer to them. The crowd then took the $40,000 of cash and started sprinting out of the club. This had rapper Pooh Shiesty jumping down onto the floor with the entire crowd, trying to grab his money before everyone else did, but he just wasn't fast enough. With the individuals sprinting out of the club, Shiesty was then caught chasing after them, and somebody that was recording the concert from the back row were able to catch Shiesty pulling a firearm out of his waistband before hitting the exit door. A few moments then went by, and then all you hear just outside of the club is a firearm being used. Witnesses at the scene claim that rapper Pooh Shiesty got into a heated argument with a security guard that works at the exit door of the club. Shiesty then used his firearm towards the security guard before quickly giving it off to one of his boys, who ended up driving away and was never found again. A massive update in this court case has now been released though, as the security guard who Shiesty used a firearm against no longer wants to press charges against the Memphis rapper. The security guard takes back all statements that he gave law enforcement at the scene. He claims that he doesn't remember if he saw Shiesty aim and use a firearm towards him, all due to the paramedics giving him some sort of medication. The paramedics that arrived to the scene ended up giving him a sort of medicine to help deal with the pain that he was currently facing at that moment. This medicine allegedly ended up giving the security guard memory loss, and now he no longer remembers if it was Shiesty who did it. This means he no longer wants to press charges against a young rapper with so much potential, as he doesn't want to be the one responsible for ruining his music career. These statements from the security guard will be made present to the judge at his next court hearing, but one thing I want to mention is that Gucci Mane ended up signing Pooh Shiesty to his 1017 label just around over a year ago. If you know anything about Gucci Mane, he has been involved in some of the most serious court cases ever known in the rap industry. He has gotten out of them due to the very successful lawyers that he has in his corner, especially the lawyers on payroll. Now, Pooh Shiesty has been one of the biggest rappers that we have seen in the year 2021 and 2022. There's no way that Gucci Mane is going to allow this rapper who is signed to his label to sit in prison the rest of his life. So when you hear things like the security guard wants to take back all statements that he gave law enforcement, you could probably assume Gucci Mane and his lawyers had something very big to do with this, whether it was paying the security guard off under the table, or if Gucci Mane maybe got in contact in a different way. It's very important to realize that who you are messing with in this case, and it also could be a big reason as to why Shiesty ended up snitching or taking the proffer in his original first case. But that has been all for the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like on it and don't forget to subscribe. It's been District Trending and I'm out. Peace.